Hey, John here. In this lesson I'm going to take you through a practice routine that I believe is the best one to get your alternate picking together if you're a beginner or intermediate or simply as new to alternate picking. The reason why I think this is the best alternate picking workout for beginners is that we're going to be covering the most common notes per string patterns. What I mean by that is that we're going to cover 2 notes per string, 3 notes per string, and 4 notes per string. And not only that, this routine will also take you through all the combinations you can do with 2 fingers at a time, 3 fingers at a time, and 4 fingers at a time. And the reason why this is so important is because it will free up your technique so you can play whatever shape or pattern you want and not be stuck with a specific scale. And obviously learning and practicing scales is very important for your development, but as far as the technique is concerned, it's much better for you to start with these mechanical exercises because you can apply that to whatever scale you're learning later on, and you don't have to focus on remembering the notes on each string while you're trying to get your technique together. So this is a very effective approach. You have the entire routine written out in Guitar Pro, PDF and PNG. Just follow the link in the description below. The routine is written out in the first position, but it's going to be a movable routine, and I'm going to show you exactly how you should apply this for the most benefit. And we're going to start here in the 5th position, meaning you have your index finger on the 5th fret, and then you have second finger on the 6th fret, 7th, and the 8th fret. The first section is 2 fingers at a time, so 2 notes per string. So we're going to use 1, 2, 1, 3, 1, 4, 2, 3, 2, 4, 3, 4, or 6 combinations. And we're going to play each combination like this. We're going to start on the 5th fret in this case, and start with a downstroke and alternate pick throughout. So we're going to go 1, 2 on the E string, and then 1, 2 on the A string. Then you want to repeat that on each string group, meaning you're going to restart on the A string and go A, and then D string. Restart on the D string, go up to G, restart on G, restart on B, and then you're done if you have a 6-string guitar. And after that, you're going to move up on the E string and do the same thing in reverse. So basically you're going to get this transition. And everything is in reverse. So you go 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1. So again, if I demonstrate the whole thing with the first fingering, 1, 2, sounds like this. Once you've done that, you're going to go straight into the next fingering, which in this case will be 1, 3. So you just go up like this. 1, 3, 1, 3, 1, 3, 1, 3. One, 4. And so on. And then you do the remaining fingerings, 2, 3, 2, 4, and then 3, 4. And that's it for the 2 notes per string exercise. Obviously, you can take a break in between each fingering as well. The most important thing to keep in mind here is that everything is super accurate. Because we're building a habit here, we're not building a muscle. So it's a skill, not a muscle. So what I mean by that is that if you sit there and go like, all right, great. That won't do anything except teach you the wrong thing. So really make sure that everything sounds as good as you can get it. And what you should focus on is minimizing what I call flams. And basically if I do this, that's not a flam, but if I do this, you can hear that I get 2 sounds because I was too early with this hand or too late with this hand, depending on how you want to look at it. And that's a very common thing when it comes to guitar playing. So if you don't get the synchronization right, you're basically going to get this very unarticulated sound. So you want to make sure that when you play the notes, you only have 1 pick stroke per note, and it should be just 1 sound. So very articulated and very clean. So that's the number 1 thing you need to focus on, because there's no way you're going to get a good sounding picking technique if you try to skip this stage and just go for speed. Alright, so 3 notes per string, very important. Any type of picking thing you've heard from Paul Gilbert, John Petrucci, and the more modern players is going to be based on 3 notes per string in a lot of cases. So this is a very important thing to get used to. It's exactly the same thing as 2 notes per string, we just have 1 extra note, but the feel is completely different. The actual design of the exercise is exactly the same, so we're gonna repeat each string group like we did with the 2 fingers, but we're gonna do with 3 fingers at a time. And we have 4 groups in this case. We're gonna have 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 4, 1, 3, 4, and 2, 3, 4. One thing you want to keep in mind here is that you want to keep the alternate picking going at all times. So make sure that when you change strings here, when you have 1, 2, 3 notes, the next string here will start with an upstroke. So every other string will basically start with an upstroke. So you're gonna go down, up, down, up, down, up. Then you restart on that string, down, up, down, up, down, up. So every time you change strings, it's gonna be on upstroke. So really make sure you pay attention to that. So this is the way this exercise sounds. And just like the 2-finger exercises before, we're gonna change to the next fingering right away if possible. But again, if you need a break, take a break, no rush here. So the next fingering will be 1, 2, 4, and then we just repeat exactly the same thing. One, 3, 4, and then 2, 3, 4. All right, so for the 4-finger exercise, exactly the same layout as the previous exercises, but we're gonna use 4 fingers in this case, so we only have one combination. We're gonna go up 1, 2, 3, 4 on the E string, go up to the A string, 1, 2, 3, 4, that's our first string group. Then we'll repeat A and D, D and G, G and B, B and E. So it sounds like this. And pay attention now to how connected my 2 hands sound. There's no flams here, all right? Final exercise, we're gonna focus on the right hand and we're gonna focus on changing subdivisions. So this is not a theory lesson, but subdivision simply means that how many notes do you play per beat. And usually what you stomp your foot to, that's usually the downbeat. So that's what we're gonna focus on here. So we're gonna go between 8th notes, which is 2 notes per beat. And then we're gonna go between that and 16th notes, which is 4 notes per beat. And why it's called 8 and 16 is because in theory, you look at everything from a bar of 4, 4. So if you have 2 notes per beat times 4, you get 8 notes per bar. And if you have 4 notes per beat and you have 4 beats, 4 times 4 is 16. So that's where the name comes from. So you're not confused and think that, oh, I need to play 8 notes per beat or 16 notes per beat. So 8 notes, 2 notes per beat, 16th notes, 4 notes per beat. And why this is so important is because when you play something faster and faster, you're gonna have to think in groups. And if you can get used to these bigger subdivisions, meaning more notes per beat, the better off you will be. And there's different subdivisions that we can get into later, but 16th notes are very important. So that's why I'm starting with that. The left hand shape we're gonna use for this one is just gonna be this. And basically it's like playing 3 power chords, starting on the E string, D string, and the B string. And then we move that up, and then go back down the same way. And on each string we're gonna play this. 1 and 2 and 3 E and a 4 E and a 1 and 2 and 3 E and a 4 E and a. The counting I did here is basically just to keep myself in time, and also it will help me and you to know exactly what you're doing. So first off, to count 8th notes, you just go 1 and 2 and. So we're basically counting the first 2 beats of a bar of 4, 4. And then for beat 3 and 4, as we're gonna change the 16th notes, the way you count that is 3 E and 4 E and. So basically you're gonna go 1 and 2 and 3 E and 4 E and 1 and 2 and 3 E and 4 E and. And this is very important to get used to, because if you can count it, you will find that you have a way better sense of timing. I'm not saying that you need to count everything when you play for fun or play with a band or whatever, but if you count this way when you practice, your sense of timing will get so much better. So basically you just do this. 1 and 2 and 3 E and 4 E and 1 and 2 and 3 E and 4 E and 1 and 2 and 3 E and 4 E and all the way up, and then we go back 1 and 2 and 3 and a 4 and a 1 and 2 and 3 and a 4 and so on. So a few ground rules here. Play all the exercises except the last one with 8th notes only. So you're gonna do 2 notes per beat. So 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and regardless if you play 2 notes per string, 3 notes per string, or 4 notes per string. Super important, because I want you to really lock in with the metronome. And yes, you want to have a metronome going. And another thing that's super important, and this might be frustrating at first, but it's crucial that you get this right, is that you have your foot tapping on the click all the time. So you want to be able to play this thing and while keeping your foot on the click, while playing the exercises, whether it's 2, 3, or 4 notes per string, and also the rhythmic exercise at the end, without deviating from the click. And this might be tricky at first, but it's a very important thing, because if you don't know where the pulse of the music is, meaning the downbeat here, the click, it's going to be very hard to play anything rhythmically interesting or even knowing your place in the music. So please, for your own sake, make sure you get this right, because this will help not only your alternate picking technique, this will help you with everything when it comes to music. So when it comes to practicing this, if you look at the tabs, it's going to be written out in the first position, and that's where I want you to start. Start with a downstroke on day 1, and then you go through the whole thing here, and then after that you start on an upstroke on the 5th fret and go through the same thing again. So everything's going to be the same except you've turned the picking around. And then you do the same thing again from the 9th fret, starting with a downstroke. Same thing again, starting on the 13th fret, starting with an upstroke. And finally, you're starting with a downstroke on the 17th fret. So that's the whole routine. So this will probably take you a good 30 minutes, which is the point. So don't kid yourself here that you're going to get really good technique just by working on this for 5 minutes. So the reason we do this is so we can cover the entire fretboard without having to do it fret by fret. Because I'm covering the guitar fretboard now in 4 frets increments. So I got 1 through 4, 5 through 8, 9 through 12, 13 through 16, 17 through 20. And you might say, well, why not 21 to 24? Go ahead and do that if you want, but it's not necessary, I think. So go up to 17, that's fine, because then you get all the different tensions here and the width of the fret up here, and also you get the different tension here and the width of the frets here and everything in between. So there you have it. If you have any questions, just post them below. Otherwise, get started doing this today and be patient. You will see results over time, but it will take time. Nothing worth anything is going to be achieved really quickly. So be patient with yourself. Don't expect to be Paul Gilbert or John Petrucci or whoever you have as a guitar hero overnight, because they didn't reach that point that quickly either. So just stay patient, do everything as correctly as you can, and you'll see that your overall technique will just skyrocket.